Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bo and Joe Show. It could turn into the Joe and Adrian Show soon. Bodine's not with us here tonight. No, he's going to be turning on later. But we do have Justin in the comments. So, hey, Justin, and hey, Adrian. How's your week?
Hey Joe, great. How's yours?
It's going well. It's so nice and warm here. It's like 75 in New York today, so there was a nice change of pace. Tomorrow it'll probably be 25, but with torrential rains, we're expected to have torrential rains, but I'll still take it. So
Yeah, we actually were in the 80s yesterday. Today
really,
was today was 75. And it should be there for the rest of the week. I'm just watching the Yankee game, and it's a night game, and it was actually 64 degrees. So yeah, you guys must have had a great day over there.
yeah, we really did. So it was nice. All right, so let's jump in. You brought the Yankees up. Let's jump into baseball. What do you have?
Baseball. It's funny. We were talking about baseball last week, and Bo mentioned how he can't watch it, and football season, et cetera, et cetera. And for me, I'm a baseball guy. I know you love baseball as well, and sometimes it kind of takes the season coming back and me coming home from whatever I'm doing and sitting in my recliner and turning on the Yankee game, and then I just realize how relaxing watching baseball is. So, most people, they say it's slow, it's this, it's that, and the other thing, but it relaxes me. I sit down, I watch the game, I'm not looking to turn anything else on. It plays out, and I think I'm at my calmest, when I'm watching baseball. So I'm back in my groove, so to speak.
So it's so funny to me because I've never considered baseball to be slow. I enjoy it. I think it's much easier to follow than football because you're not always everything's always in the mix in football, and you're trying to figure it out and decipher it. But you know,
Right.
Bodine is such a big fan of golf. He can't get any slower than that. So I
Yeah, I mean, baseball is much more faster paced than golf. So, sometimes I get a little confused with that myself. But so, I think the good thing is we've had some great stories. We kind of led into them last week, leading into the season and things that were going to happen. And, I guess the first thing is, we talked about it last week, but Rachel Balkovic, Yankees organization. Um, she managed her first game in Class A with the Tampa Tarpons, and she got a win in her managerial debut. So that was pretty special. Um, Teammates hugging her as they came off the field at the end of the game. It was very special time, iconic, and you want to talk about diversity and inclusion. This is probably where all of it starts, and we can kind of piggyback on that. Yesterday, the San Francisco Giants first base coach Antoine Richardson got thrown out of the game in the middle of the game, and that led to Alyssa Nakken becoming the first female on-field coach. She ended up coaching first base for the remainder of the game for the San Francisco Giants. So within 5 days, we've had some iconic transitions as it relates to uh, gender equality, females being able to step on the baseball field at the highest level in managerial and coaching positions.
so
So that
I
was
agree.
pretty special.
It was special, and I love that story. I was so excited for her, but of course, did you see how it was tainted a little bit because of the controversy about how Antoine Richardson got thrown out? So,
Yeah.
talking about diversity, he claimed that the comment that was lobbied at him was had racial undertones. I didn't really necessarily think that it was. I thought that was a stretch. I don't know what you thought about it. He he was called an MFer, So
Yeah, I
I
don't think
think
there's any racial undertone to that.
so.
um,
I guess the comment was you're going to have to control that MFer, and then he said it was uh, a representation of being enslaved, and so I think it was a stretch at that. I'm all about political correctness and fairness and equity and all of that, but I thought he was grabbing for straws there, and I thought it was unfortunate that he was tainting Alyssa's moment.
yeah, I'd agree too. I don't know that he was that happened prior. So I don't know that it tainted Alyssa's moment, but it was a highly contentious situation. The Padres were upset. San Francisco was winning by a large margin, and the Padres were upset that San Francisco bunted for a base hit, which when you're leading, I don't know what the score was. It may have been 13-2 at that time, if I remember correctly. But you're leading in that fashion. It can get a little salty when you start, playing, little ball like that, and trying to find your way on base, things like that. So it was a contentious situation. Nothing we haven't seen before on a baseball field. But it ultimately ended up being a monumental moment for Alyssa Nakken. So I think we can kind of pass over whatever happened before. I saw something where they kind of made up, the two individuals made up today. So that part's over, and we can kind of just celebrate Alyssa Nakken at that point.
Agreed. Well, I thought I took away from it because he commented on that after the fact. He was doing interviews, not necessarily in that moment. So I thought that maybe he should have taken the high road and let that go in the interviews and let her shine in the spotlight. But it happened. And I want to say hi to George. Good evening, George. We're glad to have you here. So thanks for joining in. So I think baseball is an exciting time for both of us, and I'm looking forward. It's the season's in its infancy, but and I especially like it when the weather gets nicer around here. Sometimes I try to get to Yankee Stadium to see a game. I'm also, believe it or not, I'm kind of down the middle of the road. I also like the Red Sox. I'm probably one of the few people who like both teams. So my father has been a Red Sox fan his whole life, and my sisters and I gravitate toward the Yankees. But I enjoy going to Yankee Stadium. I enjoy going to Fenway Park, and so I'm hoping to get there this year.
Well, if it's in the family, you're excused for playing both sides of the coin on that Yankees Red Sox thing, because normally that's just not allowed.
I know. So it's funny. We've had a lot of, and my family across the board is divided. Half of them, and I mean my extended family, not just like my siblings, but it's the Tierney clan is divided half and half. Red Sox fans, and half have season tickets to the Red Sox. The other half have season tickets to the Yankee Stadium.
There you go.
George is saying, "Sorry, I'm one of the Indians fans who won't call them by their new name."
Well, okay, George. Well, how did you enjoy your Guardians scoring 37 runs in 3 consecutive games? That one of the things I was going to just kind of touch on was the fact Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, the Guardians scored 37 runs in those 3 games, scoring 17, 10, and 10 in consecutive games. So, George, whether you want to call them the Indians or the Guardians, you should be happy about that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So as everybody can see, Bodine has joined us. He is here, as his hat so eloquently has pointed out. So welcome, Bodine. As I'm welcoming you, I'm also going to welcome Troy to the show. He's saying, look at my Mets starting off strong as usual, waiting for the wheels to fall off. Robinson Cano back. So yeah, the Mets don't usually hold it together very well, but we have high hopes for them this year, because that's another New York team I like as well.
Well, and really, it's about it's going to be about Jacob deGrom. Hopefully, deGrom comes back and really is the anchor of that staff. They picked up Max Scherzer, this year. So, there's no better top end of a rotation than DeGrom and Scherzer. And just before the season began, Scherzer went on the DL. So for the Mets, hopefully he comes back, because if he does, the National League East is going to be a very interesting race. And speaking of the Mets, one of the other things, you got the audience is just leading me into all my subjects tonight, so that's great. One of the other things I was going to mention was the Mets took on the Nationals for their first series, and I think it's the first time I've ever seen this. But Alonso and Francisco Lindor both got hit in the face by pitches in consecutive innings from Nationals pitchers. So it was a contentious game 2 and 3 between the Nationals and the Mets, because you just don't see something like that. Generally, one guy gets hit in the head, and on top of that, not only did they get hit in the face, but the Nationals had hit five different batters as well. So, they were a little wild this weekend.
Before we segue to Bodine, I'm going to, George is saying it's early. The Mets will let us down by September. Could be. Troy saying, yes, he needs to get through the whole season. And yes, the bench is cleared when the pitches struck the players. And Joe Word is joining us. Yo. So welcome. So Bodine, we'll throw it to you. How's the week going? Where you been? You late, fashionably late with already a wardrobe change?
Yeah, I couldn't resist myself, but wearing the I'm here hat. And to the audience, accept my apologies. I had to do something very important, but I'm here. I see you guys are starting off with baseball. Thank goodness the Ferris is here, because I'm telling you, I am not a friend of baseball this early in the season. It doesn't excite me, because this Saturday, Easter weekend, we've got more football, baby. More football. So I am happy. As they say in the South, football is our second religion. So, yeah, baby, I'm a happy man.
All right. Well, speaking of football, I have did you see the big story? The big story, to me at least, the Tom Brady, the press conference where Tristan works. Did you see the press conference? Tristan works.
Where he was talking about he doesn't have Tom Brady's phone number. That was pretty funny. He's like, no, I'm not that high on the poll yet.
He said, no, I don't have the phone number. But did you see Tom Brady's response?
Yeah.
So Tom Brady texted him, and then he tweeted out, and he said, yo, Tristan, we've been trying to get a hold of you for your car's warranty. And then he said, just kidding, it's your favorite QB. So he texted him his number. So I thought that was funny.
It goes to show you that Tom Brady has a personality. He's a good guy. He's not pretentious. He doesn't have that as far as we know, he doesn't have that holier than thou attitude, because, again, he's the greatest quarterback to ever play the game, period. No argument. If you want to have the discussion about the greatest football player, then I'll jump in that conversation. But other than that, he's the greatest quarterback. So I think Tampa is starting off really good. The vibes are positive. Those guys are going to be motivated. And look out, because Tom is on a mission.
All right. Well, I think you better look out. You got some heat in the comments. Troy saying nobody's watching that. Kelvin, that's not football. And then we have Adrian Ferris tuning in. I agree with you, Kelvin. But then you got a little bit of Joe sticking up for you, saying football, God, and family. So
there you go, Joe. So see, again, leave it to the Joes to know what's going on. See, there's absolutely leave it to the Joes. They know.
All right, so Justin's just dying to comment on this. We saved this story for you, Bodine. So let's see. What are our thoughts on the new Masters champion and the Masters in general? So, well, wait one second. George is weighing in late. Whoa, let's hold the reins on the GOAT conversation. It always changes every other decade, so keep them lined up in their timeline. So we've had that discussion before. Yeah, we'll wait till October to have that discussion again. But
absolutely.
All right. So what do you think of the Masters? I thought it was great.
Great Masters. I heard the ratings were through the roof. Anytime Tiger's involved, the ratings are through the roof. And the compelling story part of it is, I mean, come on. The guy is literally in pain the entire Masters tournament. Every swing, every walk, one foot in front of the other. And if I was one of those people, I wrote about it in my book. I was one of those people that fell asleep on golf on Sundays after dinner, right? And in my dorm room until my roommates, Big Country and Big Head Perry Hodge, got me looking and watching golf, right? But until you play golf and get out on the course, and I'm not talking about riding in a golf cart, I'm talking actually physically walking 18 holes, you have no idea how much of an athlete you have to be. And for him to walk 4 days in a row, coming off of that accident, all the surgeries he's had, back surgery. Remember, one day it was warm, one day it was cold, the wind was blowing. I mean, come on. So listen, if he can compete in the Masters as hilly as it is, up and down, imagine how he'll work his way through the other major tournaments that are links courses, not as many trees, flat or flat-ish. He's got a shot. And will he win one this year? We'll see. But if he doesn't get injured this year, again, I'm not a bet man, but I would put money he's going to win one next year if he continues to improve and not have a setback health-wise. If he can compete and finish 4 days of golf at Augusta, man. And then the guy who won it from wire to wire. Do you know how hard that is? The pressure?
Yeah.
Oh,
no, and he's
a great
young
tournament.
Guy. And I think that, Tiger deserved all the accolades they got as he walked up to the 18th fairway. I mean, you could visibly see the pain. I mean, he was struggling to walk, and, he was also trying to be cordial to the crowd. And I think it's probably hard, and you could probably speak to this more. So he I don't know if he felt deserving of all those accolades and all that attention, because he wasn't in the top contenders. And I think that, winners feel as if they need to deserve that attention, I believe. And I think that, so for him, it was very conflicting, and certainly he was struggling.
Well, it has as much to do with him getting through the 4 days, because, we talked about this on Wednesday. And one of the things that I mentioned was, okay, let's ease back on the excitement about winning. And my comment about that was all about his injuries and condition. And so he played well Thursday, didn't start off very well on Friday, but came back on the back nine and played strong. Had a lot of birdies on the back nine, but you had to know that the first 2 days, then the third day was just going to take its toll on him physically because of all of the injuries and the ailments that he has, and that's why he shot 7 over for 2 consecutive rounds. And that's all about the conditioning. That's all about, the injuries, and this is going to be a buildup. And so, Bo, you're right. It's going to be about next year. It's not about this year. It's about the buildup and okay, where can he really get himself physically to where he can get on a course for 4 consecutive days and sustain well, sustain's the word. Just be able to sustain and still be able to play competent, competitive golf and not have his physical ailments keep him from being able to do that. And that's what we saw this past weekend.
I tell you what, after the first round, a few guys were probably saying, uh-oh. And then after the second round, when he made the cut, a few more guys were probably saying, uh-oh. And then the third round that he came back to real life, and they're like, okay, we can calm down. But I guarantee you there was a few guys going, wow.
Sure. I mean, it's obvious.
How did he do that?
It's obvious when he's fresh enough, he can play with any of them. You know what I mean? Now it's about his ability to get through rounds 3 and 4.
No
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, I thought it was very endearing, and I don't know if you saw this. A couple guys who missed the cut stuck around because they said that it was history and they wanted to see him play. So, and I agree with Justin. I think he will win another major. Joe saying his game is all 7-iron, and Tim loved the Rory comeback. So,
well, that was, and I'm glad Tim brought that up because, Bo, you mentioned ratings. And obviously, Tiger was playing earlier in the day. So, people were watching to watch him finish. And I think generally, viewership would have dropped off. But the way Rory was playing, and he shot 7 under or 8 under. He shot a 64. I don't know whether that was 7 under or 8 under. But the way he was playing and bringing himself back in, I think held a lot of viewers as well.
Well, the thing about golf is it's not just about one player in the total aspects of the game. True golfers understand that even if the player you're rooting for isn't in it on Sunday, the 2 guys or the 3 guys or the 4 guys who are competing for that number 1 spot makes it interesting because they got to go shot for shot.
No, absolutely.
And then there's always an opportunity for the guy who's in first place on the leaderboard can make some mistakes and fall back. And then the number 2 or 3 guy, and that's where Rory was at. Rory was dropping dimes in terms of putts and birdies, trying to find a way to get close enough that if the guy made a mistake, which he did, right?
Yep.
Scott made a mistake, but he overcame that mistake. But it would have been incredible had the leader, Scott Scheffler, dropped 2 shots. Boom. Now we're a 1 shot or tied, and boom. And then it just would have been a great tournament. So, it was a great tournament, but it would just been that more exciting. So that's why knowing and watching from beginning to the end makes it absolutely incredible because of the emotion, the anxiety, all of it, all of those emotions. You're rooting for one guy, you're rooting for another guy. A guy makes a mistake, you feel bad and sorry for him. Then another guy who you like comes in, and it's just multiple personalities that are playing this game. And it's not, if you make a mistake, you can just, I remember, the Shark, Greg Norman, 3-shot or 6-shot lead at the Masters and literally fall apart. Literally fall apart. It is gut wrenching. So
I'm still probably going to watch the highlights and the clips. 4 days is a lot for me. But Justin saying he thought that Scheffler was going to bogey the last hole, and he thought Rory was going to win. Troy said it was good to see Rory again, and I want to welcome Mr. Sanders to the show. He's in, so good news, Mr. Sanders. Good to see you. And Tim, he's not convinced that any of these guys are number 1. He's saying that Happy Gilmore is the good golf. So yeah,
Sarge, that's funny, Sarge.
So I am warming up to golf. I will say that as I'm getting to know the players more, but I still don't envision myself watching 4 days of golf.
Well, once you attach yourself, because I know you, attach yourself to a human interest story that grabs your heart, then you'll start following because they all have some great stories, right?
Yeah. And I do like Tiger. I like his comeback story from a personal perspective, his fall from grace, 20 years ago. I love his affinity. I love the relationship with his two children. I think his daughter's very intelligent, very sweet. His son, Charlie, is endearing. I don't know. Did you guys see the interview when they had the reporter handed Tiger the iPad, and it was he and Charlie side by side, and their mannerisms were identical. Charlie was, rubbing his nose, Tiger was rubbing his nose, and he said they both had allergies. They did the gesture together. They spun the golf club exactly identical, and Tiger was really choked up to see his son mirroring really the behaviors, because I'm sure that they've spent so much time together. So I love that.
It's a great story. Great story.
I love that. So yeah, he already has me hooked. If Tiger's in, I might watch 4 days. Anybody else, I'm gonna have to warm up to. I'm gonna have to get a number 2 player. Tim saying he loved the Ryder Cup too, and so golf. Yeah, all right, we're warming up to it. I'm warming up to it.
Good. How about the great stories this week regarding baseball? Did you guys cover it before I got on?
We did.
Regarding Rachel.
We did.
And Alyssa, is that how you pronounce her first name?
Alyssa, yeah. Those are 2 great stories.
Great stories. Women breaking the glass ceiling. This is the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion part of what we like to talk about. So it's been a great year, not just for baseball. Baseball gets its chance since football was one of the sports that was highlighted, right? Women breaking through and becoming coaches and on the sidelines and refs and so forth. So baseball's got a great starting the season off great. And it's just going to continue. Absolutely. I mean, we know there's a lot of things that we can, for those who like to complain about sports and look at the glass half empty side of sports, that's on them. But the glass is half full, and there's lots of progress being made. And so I just get a kick out of people who go, I don't watch certain sports because of this, that, and the third. That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it really doesn't, right? If sports is so exciting and they're doing a lot of great things, why would you cut your nose off to spite your face? So,
well, I think you have to remember, I think we live in the world of sports, and I think sometimes we forget that the rest of the world does not necessarily live in the world of sports. So those people who may feel that way, they're just not sports fans,
and they never were.
I mean, so that's just sometimes our naivety and thinking that just because we do, everybody else does, and it's just not the case in some situations. A lot of situations, as a matter of fact.
Based on the ratings, a lot of people love sports, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
through the roof. So those people who feel that way, again, God bless you. Have fun.
And I think too that sports are becoming more, and when I say mainstream, exactly what you said. We have more human interest stories. We have more inclusion, and so we're hearing stories about women now. So I think more women gravitate towards sports. For many years, you never saw a woman. We didn't see any women on the television. It wasn't televised. Very few women's sports were televised. And you look at the Olympics. Women's sports were televised at like 4 a.m. So I think that right, just all the progress that's being made in so many arenas. Really, not just in the world of sports, but in the world of government and in the corporate world, and all across the spectrum. The world's a different place.
Well, Title IX, again, I'm not sure. 50 years old, Title IX. It's not that old. It's really not that long ago. So we're making progress. Folks have to be patient, but also take the W's. There are a lot of wins. So
Agreed.
all good stuff.
Yep.
How about the story with the baseball player Brett Phillips? Did you see that?
I didn't see that one.
Which one was that?
I forget what team he plays for, but he met a cancer young lady. Either she's a survivor or she's going through cancer. Her name is Chloe, and she was being interviewed. Her and her mom was being interviewed in the stands, and the guy Brett Phillips hits a home run at that exact moment, and they met prior to the game. She threw the first pitch. She gave the guy a bracelet. He put on the bracelet, right?
No, I didn't see it actually.
Oh, absolutely great story. Great story. So he was all emotional at the end of the game when they interviewed him. He said, I hit that home run, and he literally hit that home run for her because he was thinking about her the entire game. And that's another great story. I mean, what are the chances the guy hits a home run while the young lady is being interviewed in the stands?
That's divine. That's divine intervention.
There you go. It was
There you
awesome.
go.
So that's another great story.
Another great story. I want to touch base on a sad story too. I mean, we had Dwayne Haskins died in a tragic accident this week. We certainly want our hearts go out to that family. And there's a mystery surrounding it, of course. But I think people need to be respectful. We may never know what happened, and regardless of what happened, he's a 24-year-old man, and it's a tragedy. And he has a wife, and he has parents, and just please be mindful of that and respect. We can speculate all we want. He could have been out jogging. He could have been out. I'm sure toxicology could potentially change the story, but it could potentially may not. So,
my understanding,
accident, right?
My understanding was he was on the side of a highway and got out of his car and someone hit him. So
it's called an accident, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's an accident.
Sometimes it's just an accident, right?
Agreed.
Yep.
So I think we have to respect it, regardless of what happened. It's none of our business. We just need to be mindful of the fact that people are suffering, and that's a tremendous loss.
Yeah.
Joe was saying Dwayne was about to reinvent himself with the Steelers, and I think that was probably true. I think that he was working out. They said he was doing fantastic, and he was a contender to be the starting quarterback of the Steelers. So it's just really a tragedy in so many ways.
And we said this, we talked about him because I think if I remember correctly, we had the conversation, and I said, hey, listen, sometimes it's about where you are as a player and how you fit in. And we know the head coach and the Pittsburgh organization is a 5-star organization. You can thrive there because they're not like, the Cowboys or my hometown Jaguars, where there's drama all the time, right? Sometimes you need stability in order to grow, and he's a young man, so he was still in that growth stage. So it would have been very interesting to see his development coming out of Pittsburgh.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Agreed. So, all right. So where are we headed now? So what I'm looking at my list.
Let's talk about Baker Mayfield. Nobody wants him. Right?
Yeah, we've known that.
We talked about it, right?
Yep.
Nobody wants him. And that's a shame. Now, if he could get lucky again and end up somewhere where he fits in, the culture fits his personality, or he changes or adapts his personality. But something's got to change, because when Watson gets the go ahead to be the starting quarterback, it's over for him in Cleveland. He's done. He's going to have to find a new home.
Yeah, we've talked about it before, and the biggest issue with that is somebody's got to carry his $18.9 million contract, and nobody's going to want to pay that. So anybody who's going to pick him up is going to want Cleveland to
pay some of that,
pay some of that contract, and I don't think I don't think Cleveland's willing to do that. I also think that Cleveland's just in a situation where, obviously they picked up what's his name? It's leaving me for the moment, but it's still unsure as to exactly what it's going to be with him. Watson. Yeah, it's still unsure as to what's going to happen with Watson. So
Joe's reminding us that he's got a knee issue and he doesn't see the value, but
so I don't think Cleveland's in any rush to deal him either. So I think it's those two issues.
George is saying Baker can't keep his mouth shut. I think he never plays again. Watson and Cleveland were informed yesterday none of the civil trials will be heard until after March 3rd of 2023. So Watson will play this season. Okay.
There you go. See.
Yep.
We'll see.
And Joe's saying he's the best of the worst. So.
Well, listen, there's some worse quarterbacks out there. I'm not saying that Baker's a terrible quarterback. I'm not saying that at all. He just outwore his welcome. You got to be a team player, even if you're put it this way. Tom Brady is the standard. Imitation or duplication is the greatest form of flattery, right? To copy someone. Copy the great. Kobe didn't become what he was by copying, Isaiah Thomas. Who did he copy? Michael Jordan.
Agreed.
Right? So all those quarterbacks out there, if you want to try to reinvent the wheel, Tom Brady is the gold standard, right? And so hopefully Baker will realize it, or he won't, but he'll get another shot because there are a lot of other bad quarterbacks out there.
Yeah,
right?
I mean
or somebody will get hurt and they'll be in a desperate situation. So
yeah, first of all, he's young enough. Second of all, he is talented enough. He's just got that moniker. He was the number one pick, and he shouldn't have been the number one pick. He wasn't the best quarterback in that draft. And that's right. And it's hurting him right now. And like you said, I mean, he can't keep his mouth shut. He's his own worst enemy at this point.
And those commercials, although we liked them, they didn't help him. What's the commercials have to do with it? It hurt him in the locker room. Right? It's not about the commercials to the public. It's about the teammates seeing him on all these commercials, and they're giving 110%, and he is costing them games. It's called chemistry, folks. The chemistry in the locker room was not great.
And I'm gonna back off a little bit because Baker showed some of his moxie. Let's remember, Baker was hurt.
Oh, absolutely.
Baker was injured for the majority of for the second half at least of this season, and he did not pack it in. He tried to get out on the field. He tried to contribute. So, I think just he shows a lot of things as well, but he's hurting himself in other ways.
He was doing too much. That's why he got hurt. Right? We know only a small percentage of quarterbacks can run the ball, run around, and maintain that health. Russell Wilson is he is the best at it, right? And even he got hurt. The quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens is one of the fastest quarterbacks, if not the fastest quarterback in the league. He got hurt, right? Sometimes you got to be a quarterback and not Michael Vick, right? Even Michael Vick got hurt just a little bit, but that's a different story, right? He's a quarterback, man. Just, be the general, be the field general, do what quarterbacks are supposed to do. run the offense, throw the ball, advance the ball downfield, get the ball to your playmakers, and live to see another day. But he was doing so much, he put himself in a position to get hurt. And it's not like he's 6'4".
No, he's small.
He's small. He's not like the quarterback in Buffalo or the quarterback in LA Chargers. Those guys are 235, 250 pounds, knocking defensive backs off of them. He's not that guy.
Yep.
That's
You
right.
got to know who you got to know what you are. Self-evaluation.
It's true. We say that self-awareness is the key to so many things. So
That's it.
Right.
That's true.
So let's stick with football. I know, Adrian, you said that you had an update on the Brian Flores lawsuit.
What about the Brian Flores lawsuit last week?
Two guys joined.
Steve Wilkes and Ray Horton joined that lawsuit for two different reasons. Steve Wilkes was the previous head coach for the Arizona Cardinals. Went 3-13, but then got fired. And then I think more importantly was Ray Horton. Horton had interviewed for the Titans head coaching job in 2016, and that Mike Mularkey ultimately got. And the purpose of his addition to the lawsuit was a 2020 podcast interview with Mike Mularkey, where Mularkey clearly stated that he was told by the Titans that he had the job before the Titans went through the minority interview process that would satisfy the Rooney Rule. So, it's what we have talked about in the past, and, the Rooney Rule being effective or non-effective and being more of a checklist and just kind of checking a box. And this is clearly an example of that, because you have people going to interview, paying money to go places, and with the hopes of taken seriously about getting a head coaching job, and the job's already been offered and locked up, and we're still going through this process. So,
and Ferris, it's not just about the money they spend to travel and all that stuff. It's the time and effort that they have to put in to prepare for the interview.
absolutely.
I mean, can you imagine?
Yes.
There are interviews that last hours, sometimes days, because certain teams want to make sure they're hiring the right person. So I'd like to think that coach who got the job, and I know Bill Belichick is, allies and will step up to the plate if they're ever called for an interview in terms of the discovery process, if we get there, right?
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you that there are other coaches out there who are our allies, who are, in other words, white coaches who do feel that certain coaches have not been given a fair and equal opportunity. And again, it takes a team effort. It takes a collective in order to make changes, because it's not about white coaches versus black coaches. It's about coaches getting a fair opportunity and what the ownership is doing. So it's all about ownership. It's not pitting white coaches versus black coaches. That is not the case.
No,
Right?
not at all.
Right?
Well, it's not the intent of it, but it does do that. I mean, if you're being bypassed for someone else, there's probably, people are human. There probably are hard feelings.
No. I'm talking about the lawsuit process.
Oh yeah, the lawsuit process, right?
Yes.
So
but yes, you are right.
Yeah.
That interview process and how the one coach is hired and the other coach isn't, if they don't have a good relationship from the past, that can throw some rocks in the water, right? And it becomes a ripple effect.
Agreed. So George is saying, unfortunately, all of the teams are guilty of skirting the Rooney Rule. I don't think it will ever be a perfect 100%. I'm sure he's saying it won't ever be followed 100% to fidelity, which I'm sure is true. Nothing is, but we can certainly make progress there.
We can keep working towards it. Yep, absolutely, no doubt.
And he's also saying, I can't wait to see Hines Ward and Rod Woodson coach in the XFL next year.
Is the XFL coming back? They're going to make another try
next year.
Right.
Next year. So we got football starting this weekend.
What's starting this weekend?
The USFL.
USFL.
Okay.
Yep. And we've got women's football, right?
We have the women's football. We're streaming.
Oh, we got lots of football, baby. Lots of football.
I thought we were going to get the summer off, Adrian, but now we're back in it. And now I have to learn a whole set of new teams, a whole new players.
He may be on his own on that one, Joe. I don't know how much USFL football I'm going to be watching.
So there's no summer vacations for us.
I will be hot into baseball for things like what's happening right now. Vlad Guerrero Jr., who did not win the MVP last year, lost it to Shohei Ohtani. He just hit his third home run of the game against the Yankees. He's 4 for 4 with 3 home runs and a double. And he is beating the Yankees and driven in all 5 runs. So he's beating the Yankees all by himself this season.
Well, that's all right because the Yankees beat them last night. So I'm not worried about it. Did they play last night or yesterday?
I'm not speaking to that. I'm speaking to Vlad, how great Vladdy Jr. is.
How many games have the league teams played already? 3?
This is game 6 for the Yankees.
So
this will be game 7 for the Blue Jays.
So he's got at least 4 home runs or 3 total?
No, I believe this is his first 3 of the season.
So he is already crushing it.
But he hit 2 of them against Garrett Cole.
Right. So if they play 100 and how many games?
162.
Oh, he's on pace to hit how many? Woo!
Yeah, he is. Vladdy Jr. is a monster. He's an absolute monster.
He is on pace to crush it.
Yeah, so Justin's saying Vladdy Jr. should be MVP this year, and we might have to invite George on the show because he's with you on the USFL. Let's go football all year round. So
yeah.
All right, so
G3,
George might have
G3, my man.
George might have to do some guest commentary. All right, so I've exhausted my list. Where do you want to go from here?
What you got, Bo?
Oh, listen, I think I talked about everything. We talked about Baker, baseball. Oh, how about Novak Djokovic?
What's he up to?
Oh, nothing. He's getting his butt kicked. He got beat by somebody ranked number 46. He hasn't won a tournament since he made a left turn at Albuquerque. Since he made a left turn at Albuquerque and went through that drama.
In Australia, right? The Australian Open.
And remember we talked about it? What was his career going to be like after that?
Agreed.
He's got problems. He got whipped by somebody ranked. Now we know it can happen, but not to the number 1 guy in the world. He got whipped by a guy ranked 46. He's got problems.
Well, I mean, he has not been playing competitively very much. So why? Because he hasn't gotten that vaccine.
He doesn't want to step up. He wants to be different. He wants to not do what everybody else does. He thinks he's above reproaching everybody else. And no. It's not the way it works, buddy. Not the way it works. The world's not working that way anymore.
I haven't heard that. Oh, and I forgot. Well, Justin wants to talk about the NBA. The NBA playoffs. Yeah, we forgot about the NBA. He's saying that And he's also brought up, your buddy, Bo, Charles Barkley, called out the Lakers. I guess he called them old. Right?
He called them all out. He went off on them. He went off on all of them. Absolutely. Magic started it last week, and CB1 followed up on it this week. But first of all, in terms of the NBA, I like the play-in game. I think it's interesting. It makes teams want to continue to fight towards the end of the season, just like the play-in game for March Madness, right?
Yes.
And so I like it. This is to me the best time of the year. I don't watch the NBA consistently during the year, right? I watch, Thanksgiving weekend when they start off, Christmas games, the Martin Luther King weekend game and those type of things. But the playoffs is what basketball, to me, I like to watch because, you bring out the best of the athletes, right? So, lots of TV watching coming up because, the NBA playoffs is like 2 months long.
Yeah, it's a long haul.
Yeah. But that's a lot of basketball. So let's see how teams step up. I'm interested to see how the Golden State Warriors do, Boston Celtics, and without a doubt, the Philadelphia 76ers, because, we may have the MVP on our team, Joel Embiid. So, yeah, let's see. I think it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, the Nets started out strong last night, beating Cleveland. So Cleveland, who else played? Who was the second game last night?
Minnesota.
Who won that game?
Minnesota beat the Clippers.
So Minnesota plays Cleveland in that next game to get that next spot, because the Nets won. So the Nets are in. They go against Boston. I saw a little bit of that game. And, I think the biggest thing everybody's talking about as far as the Nets are concerned is their lack of defense. They can score it with the best of them, but their defense is lackluster. And, the one thing that I always keep in mind is that KD can turn on the defense whenever he feels like it.
Sure,
and he did that last night.
Mm-hmm.
Last night he was dominating, blocking shots as he normally does, and so that was obviously a good thing to see. And the NBA is kind of that league where you get all the off nights. People are taking nights off and things like that. So what does that tell you? It tells you also that during that regular season, in a lot of aspects, they don't give their all the time. But when the playoffs come, I fully expect KD to continue to step up his defense the way he did last night. So the question will be, if Ben Simmons does get on the floor, and the big conversation is, okay, if he does get on the floor, how effective can he be? What will his minutes be? Because he hasn't played since June of 2021.
He can play defense.
But he can play defense, but it obviously would be short spurts, and he could play, the best offensive player on the opposing team. So be interested in see
6'9",
what
6'10". Use that length. Absolutely. The question is, are they going to do it? Who knows? I don't know. I haven't heard.
Yeah, no clue. No clue. And then, you mentioned Golden State. Steph is still kind of day to day from what I heard today. And I'll say this, the way the Warriors have been playing, they've been playing terribly at the end of this season without Steph. And I don't think they can beat the Nuggets if Steph doesn't play. So they really need him back on the floor. He's the leader of that team. And, he's what's the saying? He's the straw that stirs the drink. And he is. So hopefully he'll get back on the court. And we get to see a fully healthy Golden State team in this playoffs.
Well, they've got some decisions to make. They've got Poole, who's a rising star, and while Klay Thompson was out.
Mm-hmm.
Now that Klay's back, how much time does he need to get back to his old self? But you're going to have to move one of them.
Well, I don't know. I mean, how young is he? If he's really young, you don't have to move one of them because you're not worried about salary. So,
no. It's contract time for him.
Okay, so if it's contract time, then you're right, and
you can't keep all three.
I don't see them getting rid of Clay. Obviously he came back this year mid-season, so he's still trying to get his legs underneath him. I can't see them getting rid of him before getting a full season out of him next year after him, being fully recuperated. And if that's the case, maybe they can deal him, the young guy, and get some other pieces for him.
Why? Well, think about this scenario. What if Clay decides he wants to go home?
Where, to Portland?
No, LA.
He's from LA? Okay.
Yeah. What if he decides to go
that.
home?
I don't see that.
And well, listen. What if he decides to go home and the LA says we want him because LeBron opts out of his contract and goes back to Cleveland? You're gonna need a star.
Yeah.
So anything's possible. Again, as I said, here's a scenario. It's being talked about, quietly being talked about. And whenever there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah, so, there is, but the Lakers are a train wreck.
Yeah.
And I don't see that.
They can't get stuck without a star. That's for sure.
No, they can't. But Clay is like Steph. I mean, they've been Golden State guys from the time they came in the league, and I don't see either one of them leaving. I think they'll be Golden State guys until they're done. So that would be interesting to see. I don't think it'll happen though. And I don't think LeBron's going back to Cleveland unless he's retiring. LeBron will go back to Cleveland when it's time to retire and maybe retire as a Cav.
But LeBron isn't going to retire until he plays at least one season with Bronny.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
If the Cavaliers draft Bronny, LeBron's going back home. I've seen this movie before. It doesn't take much to see exactly what's going to happen. Bronny is not, as far as I know, and I'm not a wonk regarding high school 5-star AAU players. I don't know how these guys are ranked, right? Only thing I know is I watched the McDonald's All-American game a couple of weekends ago, and Bronny was not mentioned in any category from guard to shooting guard to small forward in the top 5 of those 3 positions. But
is he a senior this year or a junior?
I'm not sure. Only thing I know is Bronny's going to go to college somewhere because somebody is going to want him on their campus. He's going to play for 1 year, and then somebody's going to draft him because everybody knows that the father wants to play with the son for 1 year. So wherever Bronny goes, that's where LeBron's going. And his contract is set up where he can leave anytime he wants.
Yeah, well, that makes all the sense in the world. To answer Troy's question is, he's good. He's not the best player on his high school team. He's got a couple 5-stars on his high school team. But he's good.
Oh, he's good.
He's really good.
He's going to college. He's going to college. He's going to get offered a scholarship. He's going to go to college. Put it this way. Was Steph Curry a 5-star?
Oh no. I mean, and nope. you don't have to be, but what I'm just kind of giving levels.
Yeah.
He's not a 5-star. He's got guys on his team that are considered better than he is. And then you also have to remember he can choose the G League. He doesn't have to go to college.
He doesn't, but his mama wants him to go to college. And what does mama want? Mama gets.
That's true.
Right?
So George is saying that Cleveland's seen that movie 2 times. Bronny needs work, though, will be interesting. And Justin's saying he's ranked number 35 in ESPN's top 100, I assume, high school
Is he
players.
a junior? Is he a junior, Justin?
I'm looking at it. Yeah, he's a class of 2023 prospect.
So he's a junior. Yep.
So,
That's a long story that we'll be following for a little while longer. But that's going to that's going to dictate where LeBron ends up. He wants to play with Bronny. What's in baseball? Who's that? Cal was it? No, it was
Junior Griffey. Ken Griffey Jr.
Griffey. There's a couple others that did that, right? Can you name a couple others?
The Boone family.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't play together though. No, the Griffeys are the only ones that played together. So there are a lot of father son sibling players that have legacy players, but they didn't play together.
Right.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Interesting to unfold.
Yep.
All right.
That's a story I like.
Woohoo.
All right, so we're at 10. We're at the 10 o'clock mark. So we got a lot to look forward to. We have Easter this weekend and the USFL apparently, and baseball, of course. So
I have one bone to pick with the ABC.
Okay.
Which is part of the which is owned by ESPN, which is owned by Disney. I grew up in a traditional Southern Baptist church environment where on Easter weekend we went to church on Sunday. We went to Sunday school, then we went to church, then we headed to our grandmother's house. We ate Easter dinner, then we headed back home. And we watched the 10 Commandments.
Mm.
And
I did that too.
Right? I can't believe that they showed the 10 Commandments this past Saturday instead of this weekend. I was so upset at that. But what can you do? But somebody needs to send a nice letter to the big shots at Disney to say, bring the 10 Commandments back on Sunday.
Well, you know why? They will probably have NBA playoff games on Sunday night. And that's probably why. It was the slot they could find.
Well, at least
put it
on Saturday then. Then put it on Saturday because I want the kids to be able to watch it because it was 7:00 start. It didn't go off till 11:45. One of the longest movies.
Yeah, that is a grueling, epic movie. Yes, it is.
So at least put it on Saturday of Easter weekend, not the Saturday before Easter. But hey, I digress.
It's like, so you mentioned 10 Commandments. Remember, can you think of the other old movie that used to come on every year? And you may not, but I'll tell you what it was. But there was another old movie that used to come on every year. And it wasn't necessarily any time of year, but I'm just thinking. You mentioned 10 Commandments. You remember Ben-Hur?
Oh, of course.
Remember how Ben-Hur used to come on every year and you used to watch it? There you go, George. Ben-Hur. There you go.
Another greatest movie of all time. Ben-Hur. Absolutely.
There you go, George. George is on the money tonight.
That's an Easter weekend movie. Absolutely. No question.
I used to watch Oklahoma. That would come on forget all those movies. What about Oklahoma, the musicals?
I saw Oklahoma on Broadway.
You did? I'd like to see that.
When we were kids. Yep.
Well, listen. One of the great westerns of all time is Big Country. So until you watch that movie.
What movie?
Big Country with Gregory Peck.
All right.
Yeah, baby. That's one of the great ones.
George is saying, yes, I'm that old too. We don't talk about that, George. We watch it on DVD and we haven't even, it's new to us. We just watched it last year.
The big giant, the Big Country movie is one of the first times I learned about it's not the Hatfields versus McCoys, but it was similar storyline, two families, going up against each other, in that Southern culture, fighting against each other for land and all that kind of stuff. So, but it's absolutely a great movie. If you ever get a chance, watch it.
All right. So speaking of our favorite Cowboys, we have Chris P. Bacon in the background. Of course, we want to thank him as always. Thank everybody who tuned in. We have Justin and George and Troy, and
we had a good crowd tonight.
Yeah, we had a good. Joe was here tonight. Of course, Mr. Sanders. Am I forgetting anybody?
Kelvin, Troy.
Kelvin. Yep, I said Troy. Just scrolling back through all the comments. So I want to make
Tim.
sure.
Tim Fiedler
as well. Yes, I think that's it. And then we of course had some viewers who don't comment. We always appreciate you tuning in as well. We got Bodine's got Cheney up tonight. So good. So we're looking forward to next week. Yep, another great show in the books. I guess we're going to keep you around, Bodine. Adrian and I were planning the coup between 9 and 9:10, but
we were rolling.
Listen, I had all the faith in the world that y'all could hold the fort down while I was doing what I needed to do. And that's what being a team is all about, right? And listen, y'all have a great Easter weekend with your families, the audience, you as well. And have a positive Easter weekend, positive rest of the week. And we'll see you next week.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Play us out, Chris.